For more on how Iran navigates after the U.S. bombings over the weekend, we turn to Ariel Cohen, non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center, also a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Dr. Cohen, good to have you with us this afternoon. I have a lot of questions about proportional retaliation, but I want to know what, in your view, Iran is actually capable of right now. What is the state of Iran's military, its armed forces right now? What are they capable of?
I believe that in a shorter range missiles, such as the missiles that they fired against U.S. base in Qatar, potentially U.S. based in Iraq and Syria, we may see more attacks. The main news here is that Iran went through sort of kind of a performative retaliation. This was not mother of all retaliations because A, they signaled, and B, they used the systems that were intercepted, and they knew that US and Qatar could intercept their missiles. So what does it tell me? It tells me that they did not throw the caution out of the window. They probably had intervention from China because China is a major customer for Iranian oil. Up to 15% of Chinese oil and even more so of Iranian oil goes to China. And the Gulf states, because Qatar is a member of Gulf Cooperation Council, so is Oman. If they try to block the Strait of Hormuz, they would need to do it in the Omani waters. That's where the passage is. So they would be in conflict with all of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which is Arab, of course, and Sunni. And then you could couch this conflict in the in terms of Arab versus Iranian, Sunni versus Shia. They did not want to do it. They're not there yet. In terms of are they going to do more retaliations, it really depends on the balance of power in Tehran. We see reports that Ayatollah is in hiding and nowhere to be found. The Ayatollah has to sign everything. So I do believe that once the elite in Tehran digests the severity of the blows, both Israeli and American, there will be massive changes in the regime. My sources are saying more than 60% chances that the Ayatollah will not stay here by the end of this year.
Wow. Regime change. Wow. Okay. Better?
Internal, not U.S. imposed, not Israel imposed, but things will shift. And we know for years that IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the fist of the regime, is not happy with the rule of the clerics. They want to run the show. They want to control all the goodies. They are aware that the Iranian economy was run into the ground by the clerics, and the Iran is very isolated. And as usual, there are different wings. They're more anti-Western wing, more radical wing, and more pragmatic wing.
I have a couple questions. First of all, regime change will be for the better, or we don't know? Like, who is in the wings waiting to take over?
Let's go down the list. I mentioned IRGC, and I mentioned that there's a split within IRGC. This is the military wing of the Islamic regime. In addition, there's a regular army, which is less ideological, less politicized. They are a separate body. Some of these officers were officers back in the day, even under the Shah. Now, of course, that generation is gone. Then there are liberals or technocrats in the regime. Then there are the monarchists, the crown prince of Iran, Reza, lives about, 5 miles from where I live in Potomac, Maryland.
Yeah.
And then there are the Mujahideen, the Marxist wing that was fighting desperately with this regime. These are atheist and once violent, some people call them terrorists. That's another far left wing. So you see the spectrum. And what the Islamists are doing, they are monopolizing power. They're not transitioning that pretty sophisticated modern society into some semblance of a democratic machine that could balance the interests of different groups.
So, Dr. Cohen, if we do see a regime change, or largely a regime change, is it better is such a poor word, but is it better on the other side for the people of Iran, for Iran's role in the region, and maybe even, globally?
Look, this is a highly opaque situation, very difficult to predict. I would say that if the system opens up, if the system avoids a civil war, which is a possibility also, not necessarily a high possibility, but a possibility. If the system brings more participation from the society, well, imagine they have the urban dweller, the city society that is educated, a lot of people with college education. A lot of people are looking towards the West, not towards China, not towards Russia, to model their society. And they're aware that women, 50% of the population, are abused and severely oppressed by that regime. We saw 982 people, I believe, in 2024 killed. We see torture. We see execution of gays. We see all kinds of brutal, barbaric behavior that a lot of city dwellers, educated Iranians are totally rejecting. There's a lot of sympathy towards the West, toward the United States, and even towards Israel.
Interesting.
And the fact that the Israeli intelligence and other intelligence is so effective is because there is a lot of cooperation by the Iranians with Western intelligence services.
That is fascinating to hear. Before even the possibility of talking about a different regime in Tehran, I think there are some questions now that Americans in the U.S. military and the president wants the answers to. For example, where is the enriched uranium now? If it left Fordo, do we have any idea?
Absolutely. We don't know if it left Fordo, but I can tell you one thing. That uranium is enriched to 60%, which is 20 times more enriched than what they need for the civilian nuclear reactor for electric power generation. That was a step before enriching to 80, 90% for the bomb. They have enough uranium, according to open sources, to 8 or 9 bombs. They could have taken that uranium at 60%, as they have it currently, package it into regular explosives, containerize it, and blow it up in Israel, in the United States, in Europe, you name it. So it's a clear and present danger. And I disagree with the intelligence community assessment and with the gentleman who spoke before me, your security desk chief, because no country builds a ballistic missile arsenal with longer range missiles that could reach Europe and are reaching Israel. And all you need to do is add one more stage to that missile to make it an ICBM. And Iran already is building that capacity because they're putting satellites in space. So with 60% enrichment, that a step just before putting it in a warhead, and they can get the warhead technology from North Korea, from Russia, from China, from Pakistan. So they are a threshold country. And what the United States and President Trump did was absolutely correct for the interest of the United States. We do not forget that since 1979, for 46 years, every Friday, these people are chanting, "Death to America, death to Israel." And they killed over 1,000 Americans. They tortured American officers, military officers. They killed American servicemen in the Khobar Towers, etc. They are a hostile power, and what Trump is trying to do is to put them down a peg and possibly get to some kind of an agreement.
In your view, did the U.S. go far enough with the bombing campaign on Saturday evening into the early hours of Sunday, or does the U.S. need to do more?
I think we went as far as we could. We used cutting edge technology, the heavy bunker buster bombs, and we need to do a damage assessment. Once we have a damage assessment, and it will be classified, I won't know it, then Trump, Hegseth, chief of Joint Chiefs, the head of Joint Chiefs, will reassess it with the National Security Council, with the intelligence community, reassess it and decide. But I think President Trump is trying to de-escalate now. And I think what this attack is telling me, that the Iranians are playing ball. They want to walk away from this situation because they realize that they're kind of crazy, but they're not, they're not stupid. They're realizing that more bombing campaign, both from Israel and from the United States, may signal the end of that regime.
A million more questions I'd love to ask you. Can I just ask you 30 seconds? Does China being somewhat allied with Iran complicate things? And very quickly, if you could, like 25, 30 seconds.
China has a $400 billion investment agreement. I think it's 25 years stretch. And they are buying a lot of Iranian oil.
Right.
And they're doing a lot of other things the Chinese do. Infrastructure, roads, airports, etc. The Chinese do not want that agreement to be destroyed. And I would recommend to anybody who is engaged in Iran, tell the Chinese, don't worry, your investment is safe. Same thing as we should have done with the Russians in Iraq. I advocated that back in 2003, and the Bush administration did not listen, and we turned Russia against us. Now, the Russians are being very cautious. The Russians had that defense agreement with Iran, but it did not include mutual defense, mutual military activity. And the Chinese, again, it's very opaque. We do not know what they're supplying. Possibly some missile technology to Iran came from China. We don't know that for sure. But the Chinese are very, very cautious because they don't have the power projection capability in the Gulf like the United States.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. So appreciate your time today. Ariel Cohen, non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center and a member of the Council of Foreign Relations, joining us from Washington, D.C.